Welcome into the Old North State Sports Show, folks. Today we are here to break down a 7-round mock draft. Now, you guys know that I personally am done with mock drafts until free agency. However, you know what? If I see a mock draft that's out there from a source, I may pull it into the show. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do today. Now, we'll dive into this. We'll get your reactions, get your thoughts in the comments. So this is a Pro Football Network 7-round mock draft. We're going to go through each of the prospects. And without further ado, let's get this thing started here. Kicking it off, we have Malachi Starks. And folks, he's someone that I have been talking about for quite a while for the Carolina Panthers. And I think he is absolutely in play at pick number 8 as a safety. We're going to look at his prospect profile here in just a second. But I do think he is someone that the Panthers may look at drafting. Now, I'm doing a full breakdown on Malachi Starks separate from everything else, but I do think in general he should be in play. 6.3 prospect grade from NFL.com. We'll look at some of his strengths: high football IQ and athleticism, speed to phase deep routes or recovery when necessary, locates the deep ball and plays it with his plus body control, challenges pass catchers with good force. Some of his weaknesses include average peripheral vision and block shed as a down safety, slows and catches contact when tackling running backs, inconsistent to stack blocks or spill the run from the box. But I look at this guy, you can see 3-year starter with reams of high leverage games on his resume. I mean, you go to the University of Georgia. University of Georgia has good football players. He's a versatile safety with the size and athleticism to eliminate contested catches and the speed and ball skills to shine when the action travels deep. Connection to the route is inconsistent in man, and he's baited out of position by misdirection, but better discipline and anticipation should clean that up. So for me, absolutely in play for the Carolina Panthers. We'll move on. And again, there's no trades. We're doing straight up how they presented this. And so the Panthers, going out to pick 57, they have the Panthers selecting Azare Thomas, and hopefully I pronounced that correctly. 6.38, eventually will be a plus starter. He's a 6'1", 191-pound cornerback. So they have 2 prospects out of the gate for the Carolina Panthers, and both of them being defensive backs. Curious your thoughts if the first 2 prospects that are drafted are backs. Now, what that really means is in this situation, the Carolina Panthers likely don't address, bringing back Mike Jackson. They don't get anyone else in free agency, and so they choose to go ahead and draft. I'm curious to see if this is actually how this plays out, but let's look at his profile. Press man cornerback with average speed but excellent length to disrupt game flow for opponents. Thomas deters early, looks his way from quarterbacks by jabbing, crowding, and smothering the least from press. He lacks route recognition and lateral twitch to stay tight to breaks from off man. He also needs to develop his instincts and trust his eyes from zone coverage. He has average top end speed, but competes to shrink the receiver's downfield catch odds using his length and ball skills. And that's the other thing. You look at his length, 6'1", 191. Carolina Panthers have shown, at least like in this last year, that they value bigger cornerbacks. That's just the way that they've been bringing guys in. That's one of the things that they value. So I do think absolutely in play here with the second pick. But what I don't know is if the Panthers could do this, man. You got to think about wide receiver. You got to think about edge. I maybe would put those position groups over cornerback. But if you get a high caliber starter, and assuming you don't bring in a free agent, that's part of the reason I hold off on mock drafts, because we really don't know who these guys are going to be drafting until we get in and see, like, what does free agency look like? Well, if that didn't satisfy you with 2 defensive backs, we now go on to the 3rd pick for the Carolina Panthers, and they have us drafting Jared Ivey out of Ole Miss. He's an edge outside linebacker, currently listed at 6'5", 238. Now, they don't even have a grade on him. They have likely needs time to develop in the league. I don't know that that's a good thing for the Carolina Panthers to have a guy that needs time to develop. Like, let's be real, when we're talking about the edge position and outside linebacker, there's been developmental guys that have come through here. Amari Barno, Ettore Gross-Matos, DJ Johnson, all those guys have been developmental-ish guys. We need someone that can impact. So I don't know that I necessarily agree with the order selection, but they are addressing some key needs. Still a little bit to be desired for me personally when we look at how they project us here with edge. We'll move on to the fourth pick to keep this rolling. And this one's also a little bit of a surprise to me. They have us drafting Ajane Cornelius, who is an offensive tackle out of Oregon, 6'5", 315 pounds. He's another prospect that does not have a grade, likely needs time to develop. It's another one for me personally that seems a little bit like a head scratcher as well, only because I look at left tackle with Ike Ekwonu. I think he's fine. To be determined if they're going to pick up his fifth year. We'll see. I look at Taylor Moton, and so my only thought is maybe this is a Taylor Moton replacement down the road. Taylor Moton coming up, getting a ton of money, or if they moved on from Taylor Moton, which is always a possibility. They could cut if they don't work something out. Highest paid player on the team right now, $30-ish million. This comes into play. This is, again, you can't really know until free agency settles itself, until we see some of the remnants of what happens with cuts, letting guys go, because some of those things, when the new calendar year kicks off, you have guys that are going to be due bonuses shortly after the new calendar year starts, i.e., look at the Travis Kelce situation. He's due a bonus on the 15th. A lot of these guys are due bonuses around that time. So if teams want to save money, they're going to have to make decisions quickly as soon as the year opens. And so at that point, we could see players cut, restructured, whatever, all that start to happen as the new league year kicks off. Now, moving on, we've got another person on the offensive line. This one makes sense. And look at this, Winston-Salem, North Carolina native. North Carolina represent a player out of Georgia. Can't go wrong with the Georgia prospect. 6'3", 310-pound center. A lot of folks wanted the Panthers to draft a center last year. He's 5.83 rating. Has him as an average backup or special teams player. Wilson is a one-year starter, lacking the size and power to hold his own against an NFL nose tackle. That's a problem. He's athletic and should improve with additional experience, but will need help from bigger guards next to him. Well, we got that, so no need to worry there. He plays with his inside his hands and decent core strength in both phases, but would benefit from better strain and a finisher's mentality. When you talk about the center position for the Carolina Panthers, where we sit right now is trying to figure out what's going to happen. Is it going to be Cade Mays? Is it going to be Austin Corbett? Is it going to be Brady Christensen, or are they going to look elsewhere? My lean would be Cade Mays, and in that case, again, I don't see the Panthers needing to waste a draft pick, especially when you still have Andrew Rame on the roster. Now, the next pick may finally make some Clemson fans happy, as they have us selecting tight end Jake Brenningstool out of Clemson. Would be the first ever player drafted by the Clemson Tigers for the Carolina Panthers. 6.19 rating, good backup with the potential to develop into a starter. He's a senior, 6'5", 234 pounds. What Brennan Stool lacks in mass, he makes up for with toughness in both phases. He's a position-based tight end who majors in zone beaters, but will struggle to separate against man coverage. He operates in space with good body control, in strong hands at the catch point, and does an adequate job of keeping defenders on his hip. Despite a high pad level, he can help as a run blocker, both connected to the line and in space. He's not a true Y or F tight end, but is capable enough in all areas to become a factor in two tight end sets. And again, you look at the Panthers, Jatavian Sanders is the only one currently on the roster right now. So decisions to be made with Tommy Tremble, Felipe Franks, Matthews, who's like practice squad. Is he going to make the cut? And of course, Ian Thomas, which honestly it feels like this is the end for Ian Thomas. But I don't dislike that. getting a tight end later in the round. Now, if you go to one school in South Carolina, you certainly have to go to the other. And well, Carolina Panthers are very familiar with drafting guys out of University of South Carolina and or bringing guys in that are from there. You have Demetrius Knight Jr. out of South Carolina, 6'1", 246-pound linebacker. 6.32 has them eventually projected to be a plus starter. So pretty good value late, at least according to NFL.com. He's a passionate linebacker with great size, good instincts, and a feel for how to play the position. Knight is a fluid athlete with average pursuit speed and short area burst. He uses his eyes and instincts to diagnose quickly, and he maneuvers around bodies like a running back. He's adept at slipping blocks and rarely allows blockers to stick and sustain on the second level. He's aware and productive in zone, but could struggle to stay connected in man coverage. Not a twitchy mover, but knows how to play the game and has a chance to play on all three downs. His field demeanor and football character should seal the deal as a starter, future starter at inside linebacker. I like that. Panthers are going to need help. Josie Jewell's not getting any younger. We don't know if Shaq Thompson's going to be here. And to be honest, not sold 100% on Trevin Wallace. That's a whole different discussion, but that's just my personal take. Hopefully, it's going to get a little bit better. Keeping it moving here. Finally getting a wide receiver, and when you get this late in the 5th, 7th round, like you're basically just hoping something sticks here. Prospect is Nick Nash out of San Jose State, 6'2", 198 pounds. Getting a wide receiver this late, I don't know that there's very many expectations, and I have another video coming on the Carolina Panthers wide receiver issues and how they just can't get it right. I've done multiple things talking about wide receivers, the wide receiver room, draft history, free agency. We're going to talk a little bit more about it in depth in another episode because that's just the theme of this team. Closing it out, and again, this late in the game, they have the Panthers selecting Caleb Ransall, cornerback out of Tulane. So that wraps up your entire draft class. All done. Recapping, Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. Azare Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State. Jared Ivey, edge out of Ole Miss. Johnny Cornelius, tackle out of Oregon. Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia. Jake Brittingstool, Clemson tight end. Demetrius Knight Jr., South Carolina linebacker. Nick Nash, wide receiver, San Jose State. And cornerback Caleb Ransall out of Tulane. Anyways, folks, that is going to do it for today's episode. I'd love to know what you guys think about this 7-round mock draft. And as I close the episode, if you're still here and you're on the audio-only platform, Spotify, whatever, Apple, I want to highlight you can now call into the show, 910-679-6927, and you can leave a voice message. We are eventually going to expand this into the live show so we can get live callers. That's always fun. But until then, that's going to do it for today's episode. Call, let me know what you think. I'll get your takes featured on the show. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.